Hey, it's Chris Doucher for GeekNerdNet.com. Most times you listen to us and we talk about comics and we talk to artists and writers and all that good stuff, but related fans of animation. And I'm here with Andrew Pearce. He's the former vice president of global technology with DreamWorks Animation. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, Chris.
Of course. So, you know what? We're here at University of Calgary, and you were a graduate back in 87. Is that correct? Or was it 88?
Well, their record says it's 88. My thesis says 87. So around then.
Yeah. So
prehistory.
We'll ballpark it. And then through the Faculty of Science, and then your career you went into software, and because originally you had mentioned previously in another chat that you wanted to be an animator, but you just didn't have those sort of chops, but you still loved it, and so that took you in a direction.
Yeah, all through high school, I had two friends, Peter Levesque and Tim Lane, and we drew a lot of cartoons. And I could tell that theirs were really good and mine were really bad. And so when I came out of that economics class, I think it was Management Information Sciences, which was actually doing databases or something on the computer, which I found super easy. But I turned the corner in the science hallway there, and in one of those little wooden cabinets, there was this picture, and it was so rudimentary. It was maybe like a sphere was a hill, and then there was like a little brown cylinder and a green sphere on top of it. It was supposed to be a tree and maybe a car coming over the road. It was so rudimentary. And then a couple of fractals. And I was like, computers can draw. I have to do that. And there was like really very little indication in that of what computer graphics could become. Mm-hmm. But there was enough of a hint for me to kind of go, oh, this is going to be amazing.
Nice. So you go from there, you finish off. Where, and how did you land with DreamWorks?
If I had planned to get there, I could never have gotten there. Right. It was kind of like I went to Toronto to join Alias, which was just about the only company in the world at the time that was producing a computer graphics program, and so I could apply my degree to what they were doing. And from there, we started to talk to a lot of people in these production companies, and we had Steve Williams, a friend, go down to ILM and be kind of a huge success with The Abyss and Jurassic Park, that kind of proved that. And I felt like, oh yeah, we can actually do something valuable for the movie business. We can do visual effects with computer graphics now. We kind of proven that that's going to be a thing. Mm-hmm. With Alias, I also moved down to Santa Barbara. To work on Maya for Mac OS X, to do that port, which I'm super proud of, because I'm certain that Steve Jobs had approached Adobe to say, hey, we want Photoshop to be the first large app on Mac OS X, and I don't think Adobe was willing to take that risk, but we were there, and we got Maya ported to Mac OS X, and it became their biggest seller. Anyways, this is way an aside.
No, it's great.
Then once that was done, Alias Wavefront was kind of suffering a little bit financially, and it decided it had to shut down the Santa Barbara office. Now they said, come back to Toronto. I was like, no, I'm in California now. Come on, the weather's great. So I kind of reached out to all the companies that used our software and said, hey, would you have a role for me? And ESC was the company, Entertainment Sciences Corporation, said yes, and we have a huge need. We're trying to get out 2 Matrix sequels in 1 calendar year, which was just a Herculean task, because getting the first one out was bad enough. And that was my kind of baptism by fire. I was like, oh yeah, you created the software. Guess what? Now the people using it can turn around and tap you on the shoulder and go, hey, this ain't working. So that was just an amazing time. It was like 16-hour days. It was 7 days a week. And the thing it made me realize is I never wanted to be in visual effects again. So when they shut down ESC, Warner Brothers came in and said, hey, we have these Superman things coming out. And then just as we were about to start, they fired the director. And I thought, that's not good. So they delayed it so long that we just couldn't keep the company viable. Mm-hmm. It shuttered. And fortunately, right away, DreamWorks across the Bay, they were up in the Bay Area at the time, PDI up north and DreamWorks down south. They called and they had someone, they had a need for someone that could manage their rendering and their effects teams there. Mm-hmm. And so suddenly I'm in the movie making business, again, just the software for the movie making business. But there you go. I could keep going, but let's pause there for a moment.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna jump right into the animation side if I can, if you don't mind. I mean, all the your lead up and your history of your career is absolutely fantastic, by the way. So thank you for sharing all that. I love it. And the one thing I wanted to ask you, so you have all these animated movies, and there's a ton of them that you did that worked on in DreamWorks, and and here you are, all of a sudden you're now in a spot where, say, your buddies growing up could see it and go, look, here they are, here we are. Now I'm working with everybody. We're all back in the same classroom, so to speak. And when you have that company like DreamWorks and you have a technology, but suddenly you're making a human connection because of the technology that's involved in those movies. So talk a bit about that connection and the personal feel to some of these movies.
It's a distinct feeling because as I've said, 95% of my job is just like any other job. You've got deadlines, you've got budgets to meet, you've got people to manage, and then there's that 5% where you see your name going by on the screen, or you talk to someone at a party, and like when I was at Alias, I go, I work at Alias. They go, oh, what's that? Oh, you make computer graphics? Oh, cool. But I've seen a commercial, maybe. But when you said DreamWorks, people are like, oh my God, I love Toothless, I love Poe, I love Hiccup. They had an immediate emotional connection, and it made you realize that all those long nights, all those difficult problems that you overcame were super important in bringing a story to life that people could relate to take them to a place that their heart could expand with the characters, that touched them on an emotional level, and that is the power of narrative stories in my mind, and the fact that we were able to do it and bring joy and laughter and happiness and togetherness with families. I mean, that's just next level in terms of your job satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. The thing I love too about that is technology is almost like that light, but then you sit back in a theater or you're at home or wherever you are watching one of these films, and then you realize it's lighting up all these imaginations of all these kids, right? Like the kid in me who grew up loving animation. I got into comics because it got me reading. And but it's the same kind of, it's the feeling of adventure and being lost in that. And so I just love that you shared that. This is all of a sudden, yes, there's the long hours, the days, the stress, the call you later, email you later kind of thing. But then you come back to it, right? Yeah. I'm sure it's nothing you get tired of talking about.
I guess occasionally I get tired of my own voice, but no, I do love it. And just going back to that too, the thing that had got us started was there was a comic book artist drawing the X-Men who lived here in Calgary while we were growing up, and I managed to get like a panel signed by him at the local comic store. So we had stacks of X-Men and Batman, like we were comic nerds and crazy. Yeah. So it just seemed like it's such a crazy natural progression that you can actually think, oh, I made a career chasing computer graphics, and that it turned out okay.
Love it. So now let's come back around. So now you're here, you're talking to the graduating class of the Faculty of Science. In terms of you're 87, done in 87, and here you are. What kind of feeling is that for you to go, okay, wait, now I'm addressing everybody else when years ago I was addressed by someone else? You feel completely underqualified to do it. And the thing that I kind of got to was like, it's going to be okay because they're not going to remember what I said. They're going to be so focused on like, I want my degree, I want my parents, I got to go out for lunch, have a celebration. And maybe I'm being too cynical there. But it's super humbling. It's such an honor. It brings out imposter syndrome in me, in that all I did was like I just did my job, but it's very humbling. That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for taking the time. I really appreciate it and everything that you've done and do.
Well, thanks, Chris. I really enjoyed chatting.